Right, good morning ladies and gentlemen, it's Antony Carpen here. I'm on St Margaret's Square and I'm just outside Syd Barrett's old house. Now for decades for those of you who don't know who Syd Barrett is, he was in a group you may have heard of called Pink Floyd, one of the most famous pop groups ever to come out of Cambridge, and he lived down this road for decades, almost kind of unidentified by those of us who lived in the neighbourhood. And I remember when I was working up at the supermarket in the middle of Cherry Hinton Road, Budgeon's, which was my first ever supermarket job, or my first ever job when I was at sixth form college. My then supervisor, who used to be my dinner lady, Margaret Gass, saying, "Oi, Anton, you've just served Syd Barrett." And I was like, "Oh, have I?" And I think that goes to show, certainly for those of us in the neighbourhood, it was very much a case of, live and let live. And it strikes me today, every so often when you see an interview with, a movie star from one country who then moves to another where they're relatively unknown, and they say it's nice for them to have their privacy back, to be able to go to, to pop over the road for a coffee or something like that, something that they wouldn't be able to do in normal pop star life, which kind of reminds me of one of the big bands around my time in my later years at primary school. I think it was Bros, who were famously told at the peak of their fame in 1988, 1989, that if they stepped outside of their front door, they would be arrested by the police for inciting a riot, because that was the level of fandom that they had. We're just walking past here, the Rock Pub and the Sorrento Hotel. And the reason why I'm filming at this time on a Monday morning was because in the previous episode I missed out, and thank you to Chris Rand of the Queen Edith newsletter for pointing this out, I missed out a very important detail on the planning application of the Constitutional Club. And it was an application to do with the changing of the use of the existing building and building another one. And it was the latter bit that I'd missed out on the planning application. And there are two issues that I want to raise there. But in the meantime, as we head up Cherry Hinton Road towards it, we're walking past Michael's Shoes and Leathers, and they've been there for quite some time. Actually, they've probably been there for about the past 15-20 years, and they're just there. And before then, it was a corner shop called Bob, or Bob's even. We've also got the Old United Reformed Church, now the Greek Orthodox Church. I had a long conversation yesterday with Councillor George Pippas, who's one of the ward councillors in the Queen Edith's ward, and a couple of years ago he was the deputy mayor. And he told me the story of how the local Greek Orthodox community was able to purchase the United Reformed Church, which was then for sale. And he's invited me back very kindly to film another short series on their plans. We're also walking past Victoria Wine and also the Swiss Laundry, and I'll touch on what they're all about in a bit. But what we've got here is the Constitutional Club. It was rebranded as Cherry Cons over a decade ago, I think. And what we've got here is the planning application. Now, the bit that I missed out was the bit around the additional clubhouse. And so, as you can see, the erection of a two-storey building at the rear. And so, my first concern when I saw the initial headline in the application was, oh no, we're going to lose one of our music venues. And so, so I thought, well, either way, let's just let the local community know what the planning application actually is. And what we're doing is we're walking around the back. And it's going to be in this car park that the new building is going to be built in. So as you can see, it's just a big car park there now. I'll switch it around because on the other side, just over there, you can see the backs of, well actually that's the front of Hartington Grove, and what you've got over there is the Friends Meeting House, and then when you've got over there is the back of what is now the hall of the United Reformed Church. And so swinging back round again, what we're going to see with this new development here is a new clubhouse, and you can see the diagram here that I've taken from the planning application, which shows that hopefully it will be, obviously, as well as a clubhouse for a local political party that has got a fair few members, but it's literally a handful of activists who seem to be doing the legwork. But at least, certainly I think from a local perspective, it would be nice if we have that additional community facility coming back into use, along with the plans for the United Reformed Church's buildings renovation under the new ownership of the Greek Orthodox Church. Because when it was first opened, as you can see from this diagram, and as you've seen from the previous video, it was opened in 1904. I incorrectly stated it was 1906 last time. And it was opened as the new free church for what they called New Cherry Hinton. This side of Cherry Hinton Road originally was known as a mixture of New Cherry Hinton, the Rock Estate and St John's Parish. Now, directly opposite me is the Swiss Laundry, which is where I get my trousers shortened and my dry cleaning done. And it was called the Swiss Laundry because of the Swiss method of dry cleaning that they used. We've also got the wonderful Cambridge Wine Merchants. And if we look, obviously they're not open at this time of the morning. And this site used to be an off license for many years under Thomas Peatling, Victoria Wine, and then when Victoria Wine, the national company, went into administration, Cambridge Wine Merchants bought out the property and actually expanded it and again turned it into a much needed community venue, and also kind of as an alternative to the Rock, as in the Rock pub, which we're going to be walking past again. And they started doing wine tasting events. They opened up an on-license, an on-premises wine bar, because previously it was just an off-license. So you can now turn up and drink on the premises rather than just buying a bottle and doing a runner. And they've also started doing other events such as comedy nights, which is splendid. Now, there are a couple of other, I wouldn't say interesting, but kind of like notable developments which reflects the state of the housing market more than anything else. This one here, Old Funton House. Who came up with that name? I have no idea who Funton is, but I think it's the family that run the Assisi guest house just next to it, acquired the previous small and really uninspiring house that was on there, knocked it down and turned it into lots of flats. We've also got, again, the Sorrento Hotel, which again has been run, I believe, by the same family for absolutely ages, certainly as long as I've lived here, which from birth at the moment now is 37 years. And then we've got the Rock Pub, which for quite some time was a hotel and a place for public meetings, amongst other things. In more recent years, it was taken over by the Cundy family, and now is very much in, well, for me, it's always been a local. Now, what we've got here in this shopping parade, you can see we've got the Wilko stores, but this actually used to be two sets of shops. We've got the post office and Balzano's and what used to be Jack's Fish and Chips, but is now labelled as Fish and Chicken. And then what we've got over here, again, two further shops or two further takeaways, and the Cherry Box Pizza, which used to be a bakery. And then next to it, you've got an insurance firm that actually used to be a florist's. There used to be two florists here. And just where you see the 20 miles an hour sign over the road there, that used to be a fishing tackle shop. So you could get fishing rods there. All of those shops that were there during my lifetime. So the Wilko discount store used to be a greengrocer. Charles Wisby used to run that. And then a revamped post office. And then Rocco Balzano's store. And you can see Rocco in the main entrance there. And what he's done with that building, and just check I'm not in any driver's way. What he's done brilliantly with the delicatessen that was set up by his late father is he's turned it into, again, a community venue, which these days is you've got this eclectic mix of young mums of kind of like my generation and younger, along with, if I can call them, the Morley and Queen Edith's mums, who have coffee in the coffee bar at the back of the store every day. And one of the things that a number of the teachers and local head teachers have said in recent times when I've met them is how they would love to be able to harness the wealth of talent that they call them, it's kind of like the Morley grandmums, really, of which my mum is one of them, because my nephew is also, my niece and nephew are also at local schools here. And that really brings us nicely on to what I want to finish this video with, is we talked about the planning application for the Constitutional Club earlier, and actually to find out what the plans are and to visualize the details is actually not easy. You've got to know what to look for, where to look and how to look for it, rather than just having a very easy to find visualized design of what it's going to look like and having it somewhere where people can access it. That said, Chris Rand and Sam Davis of the Queen Edith's Forum have started bridging that gap. And the idea being is that we've got such a wealth of talent in this whole city. The problem being, certainly from my perspective, is that we're not good enough in terms of making the information, in particular the consultations, easy for people to find. And in particular, the role, the potentially for local councillors is to play both that convening role, but also be that conduit for experts in the city, in their different fields, to feed through their advice through to their elected representatives, who can then cross-examine the decision makers. And our former Member of Parliament, Julian Huppert, actually demonstrated brilliantly how to do this through his use of social and digital media. And for me, it's an example to all elected representatives, irrespective of which political party you're from, on how you can actually get the best out of using social media and harnessing and tapping into the talents that your constituencies or that your wards have. Anyway, I'm going to end it here because I'm actually going to go and grab a coffee from Balzano's, because I normally go there every day, but before then I think I'm going to go and grab a paper from the newsagents, which many moons ago I used to do a paper round at. So I shall see you soon.